Hey everyone.
Hi, Merry Christmas.
Happy holiday.
Oh,
This
do you
is the
remember that?
Pop Girlies Holiday Spectacular.
Do you guys remember that horrible period in like the late 2010s when everybody was like, Merry Chrysler, Happy
Yeah.
Christmas?
Oh, I
The
just threw
Vine
up.
era.
Yeah. No, that wasn't the Vine because I feel like that was
That
like
was after
late
Vine.
2010s. That was after Vine. Vine was
But
early 2010s.
I thought Mary Chrysler though was Christine Sidelko, who was a big person on Vine.
Oh, so she knows the actual.
Oh,
Cool,
so
because
you know the
what
lore.
music
Yeah, because
video
it
is
was
she
from
also
Katy.
in? Katy
Oh,
Perry, knowledge
yes.
area expert.
Yeah, she is in Swish Swish.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like she blew up in the like 2016, 2017, and that would have been post Vine.
Okay.
I suppose. I just feel like I remember that video being a Vine.
Is it
But
a Vine? But
that's what I
maybe it
thought.
wasn't. Maybe it originated as a Vine, but it like gained popularity later. Because I feel like its peak was like 2017, 2018, when everybody was like, "Merry Chrysler."
Mm-hmm. That could be possible.
Ain't nobody care about Mary Chrysler no
Well, if
more.
you said Merry Chrysler, you're not a real pop girly. You're not even a real
No.
American. You're a communist.
Oh, oh,
Oh,
okay.
and I'm setting the
Mm,
what was that thing called? The Board of Un-American Activities, like in the 50s when they did like all that crazy Red Scare stuff. I'm setting them
Oh,
after you.
girl, we don't have time for a history lesson.
Well, we're kind of
Uh,
doing a history lesson today. We're going back in time.
we are. Back in time.
okay, okay,
I told my dad what album we were doing today, and he was like, "Isn't that old?" I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
okay.
oh,
Not the
okay,
oldest one
Katie
we've
Shade.
done.
yeah, that's kind of Katie Shade." Well, actually, it's Clara Shade.
It's Claro Shade,
Everything is
indirectly.
Claro Shade.
Yeah, everything is Clara
Everything
Shade.
is Claro Shade. Everything is embarrassing, and everything is romantic.
Yep.
So that,
Everything
hey,
is.
okay, tag ourselves. Who's embarrassing? Who's Clara Shade? And who's romantic?
Well, Levi's Claro Shade.
Yeah, I'm Clara Shade. I'm everything is Clara Shade.
And Maria's Everything is Romantic because
And
that's her
your
favorite
everything is
song.
embarrassing.
Yep.
Yeah, and that
Yep.
tracks.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that
Okay,
actually I think is
perfect.
accurate. Okay,
Okay, hot
hot tracks.
tracks?
Whoa, you guys said it the exact same way at the exact same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
I
Maria,
can't go
are you,
first
well, are
because
you going to be
it's
big and
gluttonous.
greedy and go first?
Yeah, Maria, I'm actually making you go first.
Glutton. Glutton.
Maria
Slay.
first.
Deadly sin.
Okay. Well, haven't been listening to a lot of music, unfortunately. And I don't really
Why?
have a song to pick. Well,
Loser.
work, and I've been with the fam.
Oh,
So
okay. Well, at least it's with the Queen Honey.
it's the Queen Honey. So yes.
Oh,
But
Queen
because
Honey.
this episode's coming out on Christmas, I'm gonna say my hot track is Hey Sis, It's Christmas by RuPaul.
Yes, that
One of the best
I
holiday
did a
songs,
Peloton ride to
period.
that song. I went
Yeah.
so hard.
That song is so good.
I'm honestly surprised that RuPaul has never ended up in either of your guys' top five artists on Spotify Wrapped.
Oh,
I don't listen to
cake and
RuPaul that
candy's
much.
probably close.
You guys
Um,
talk about RuPaul as if you listen to RuPaul all the time.
well, I don't. I used to in high school actually. I used to listen to RuPaul like kind of a lot because it's
I
just so feel
listened,
good.
yeah, I listened to Cake and Candy a lot. I'm gonna be completely honest. I love that song.
Cake and Candy is really good. I like when people make TikToks and they use ASMR Lover as the song. It's really funny.
We should do a
Um,
RuPaul episode, but maybe like when we're more established.
I feel like if we do RuPaul, we need to do just like a greatest hits compilation or something.
Yeah,
Because I
there's
feel like
not
if
one
we
that
do an
comes to
album, there's
mind.
going to be too many like sinkers.
Yeah,
Yeah. She's not really an albums artist.
No.
right. She is
Hey,
an
Maria,
artist's artist, though.
you pick next.
Oh
Big
God.
and greedy.
I th All right. Well, I think the last time I went first, I picked Levi, so this time I'm gonna pick Drew.
Okay. Well, this this lined up perfectly because Miss Perry just released the deluxe version of 143 entitled 143.2.
Yeah, okay, Drew, can you explain that to me? I don't understand that.
I think it's meaning like Like two, like the sequel, but also like I love you too. Like TOO.
Oh, but also it's the only letter that was missing in the because it had one and three and four, but skipped
Yeah.
two. Okay, I kind of just thought it looked like code.
No. No, I think it's like I love you too, but also like to the sequel, like the second version.
The re-up.
Do you hate it?
No, I don't really feel
Okay.
strong emotions about it at all. I just
It's
didn't
not
understand. It
emails
just
I can't send forward, colon.
well, you're the one who hates that. I don't hate
Yeah.
that as much as you hate that.
Oh, okay.
That's you. That's you. You're a hater.
Okay.
What do I hate? Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Homophobia.
Well, moving
Homophobia.
on.
Yeah.
Right.
Hate
Same.
that.
Um,
And Tay
so
Triers.
my favorites, I'm like so mad at Miss Perry because all four of the songs, A, should have been on the initial, but also like she was trying to make this huge comeback, and there's a song on the album that could have been like, because she, was telling us all about how Women's World was this bridge between, old Katy Perry and this 143 Katy Perry. When there's a literal song called "I Woke Up," that's like
I
so much
woke up.
better.
I mean, then she's
Um,
getting a matcha latte.
yeah. So that's my hot track. It's "I Woke Up" by Katy Perry. Um, but
I've
yeah,
done that
if you,
before. I've woken up and gotten a matcha latte, and it's
That's
great.
something a lot of us can relate to.
Yeah, it's really relatable. I
everyone,
mean, yeah.
especially her fans.
Do you like matcha lattes?
No, but I'll
Oh,
drink one.
do you like waking up?
Yeah,
Good.
Step one, wake up. Step two, matcha latte.
matcha
Matcha latte.
latte.
Let's get a matcha
Do
latte.
you guys actually like it, or do you think it's like stupid?
I haven't,
I,
to completely honest, I have not listened to the bonus tracks
Okay.
yet.
okay, so I'm a bigger Drew Warrior fan. No, I don't hate it. I think it's silly. It's not my favorite of the bonus tracks. I do
Right.
think
You're no tears.
No Tears for New Year's. Also, I'm gonna be so honest. I love the Lumineer sleigh of OK. I
Okay.
love
Okay is so good.
it's her doing Ho Hey in 2024, which sounds like the worst idea in the world, but I kind of love it actually. I think it's like really fun. Um, but I Woke Up is like so immediate in a way a lot of the songs on the standard edition are. And it like has
Yeah.
that like kind of huge chorus that you expect from Katy Perry. Cause like the rest of the album is pretty like low key. Like it was a lot more low key than I was expecting. And I Woke Up has that like bounciness that like you kind of think of when you think of Katy Perry, largely because of the album that we're talking about today. So yeah, I it kind
Yeah.
of
It
it
gives
doesn't
very lead single.
it does. And like first track. I don't know if she just wanted to be a feminist with the women's world thing, which didn't really work considering the co-writers and
Yeah.
producers. So, we should have just woken up and gotten a matcha latte. If we had just gotten a matcha latte, we would not be in the mess that we're in.
No.
Take some notes
No.
from PJ and Tom about the mess that we're in. This mess
Oh,
we're in.
yeah,
Oh,
and
she's
if you,
bringing it back.
I know most of y'all listening have not listened to that episode, so go give it a spin.
PJ Harvey. Okay.
Poor
So
PJ. Depression. My turn.
so we woke up and hey sis, it's Christmas. Levi, what are you throwing
Hmm.
at us?
Oh, a completely different vibe.
Wait, can I
Uh,
guess?
sure. Yeah.
Is it us?
No, it's not. It's not us. So, because I have been in a Gracie bag lately, and I actually like a part of me was like, well, my real true hot track is "That's So True" by Gracie, because that's the song I've been like playing on repeat. But Drew's already picked that as a hot track, so I want to be new and fresh, and I'm actually going to do a throwback song. It's a song I listen to, so I'm at home right now, and on my flight yesterday, I was just going through my downloaded music, and I was like, I haven't listened to this album forever. Let me listen to it. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. It's from 2014 by a Swedish artist named Lika Lee, who most people would know as the chanteuse behind the Twilight hit Possibility, which is the Depression Bella scene in New Moon. That's the song. Um, I Never Learn is the album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. We're probably going to do it at some point. I think it's one of the great breakup albums in my mind. And there was a song yesterday that took me to infinity and beyond. It like has it's never been like one of my favorites, but yesterday it just like made me literally like the saddest human being alive. It's a beautiful song. It's called Love Me Like I'm Not Made of Stone. And it's all over just this like strummed guitar. It's like the most bare bones moment on the album. Um Her vocal performance is so emotive and like her voice cracks at points and it's like super depression. It's an incredible album. It is really amazing. Um but yeah, Love Me Like I'm Not Made of Stone is my hot track.
Love. I know a couple of like random songs from her discography or like other songs that she's collabed on, but I'm very excited to hear that and like listen to more of her music because I haven't really
She's
like delved into
she's
her. So,
amazing. Like do you know like I Follow Rivers?
mm-mm.
They did on Glee.
They did it on Glee.
Yeah, which is crazy. But Tina sang it, well, the most flop character sang it on Glee. Yeah.
Oh, oh wow, that's funny.
Um yeah, so that's my
Love.
hot track. That is the hottest track in
Yeah,
Levi Nation.
in Levi Nation. Well, I think everyone that listens should comment on the Instagram and just let us know which hot track this week was your favorite.
Yes, we'll see who's real and who's not real.
Wait, also, Levi, I have a question actually.
Yeah, I have an answer.
You said something a couple minutes ago, and I'm not sure what you said something that was really important. I just keep referencing PJRB. But you said something that I don't know what it was. And it had something to do with Taylor. So could you explain? It
Oh,
was
Tate Trier.
yeah, could you explain that?
Anybody who does not worship and praise the altar of Lord Taylor Swift. Basically, Tate Trier is like a hater. It's another word for a hater.
Okay.
One of my favorite things that Swifties do is they put the word Tay in front of anything.
Yes.
So like I'm a Tay warrior, I
Yes.
Tay worship. But a Tay trier is somebody who tries her, somebody who tries
Oh,
to
I
be slick
see.
and tries to do it. And there are a lot of Tate triers amongst us. You never know who's a
Mm,
Tate trier. You never know.
got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's what a Tate trier is. If you're a Tate trier, Pop Girlies Nation, you are not part of Pop Girlies Nation. You are deported from Pop. Go to Chromatica if you want to be a Tate trier.
What? So
Whoa.
Chromatica's where all of the Pop Girlies rejects have to go. Is that what you're
It's a
implying?
yeah, it's a refugee for Tate triers.
Oh my God. I like how
State
you're
of
like, okay,
refuge.
we're just deporting them and not like we're not trying to educate.
Hey, I'm not being violent, which I think is good.
That's probably the least violent thing you've ever said on the pod.
Yeah, deportation.
God.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, because my thing is like it's a cardinal sin. Like if you take try once, you can never have a chance again.
It's like excommunication.
It is. I saw
Um,
this tweet once and it was like, I might say something controversial, but I genuinely believe anybody who doesn't like Taylor Swift is going to hell. And like I kind of agree.
Okay. Uh, wow.
Uh,
Back to you.
yes. And now we talked about Chromatica and Pop Girlies Nation, and now I feel like we're gonna go to Candyland.
Oh, come on.
Girl, we going to California.
Well, okay, okay.
Representing California.
Sorry, I thought I was doing something clever.
No, I liked
It's
it,
okay.
Maria. I
It's
liked it.
okay.
Oh, Drew hated it and wants you to die, apparently.
That's
I mean,
actually
is
exactly
Candyland
what I
not the
said.
setting? Is it not the setting of the California Girls music video?
You could say that for the California Girls music video, but definitely not the album.
Duh.
Cool. Duh, definitely not the album.
God,
Next.
everyone knows that. You're so embarrassing.
Oh
Maybe your
God.
everything is embarrassing.
No, you're not.
Well,
Okay,
Should we
Drew,
get
what are we
into it?
doing today? What are
So
we doing?
we're doing my girl's greatest album of all time. It is called Teenage Dream by Miss Katy Perry. It is her
Woo!
second
Everyone
studio
cheered.
album.
and
Everyone
everyone
Oh,
stood up
cheering.
and cheered.
Pop Grilly Stadium eruption with applause.
Pop Girlie Stadium
yes.
eruption, remembering the good old days of pop music.
Remembering the good old days.
I mean, honestly. This is the good old
Honestly,
days of pop music.
I mean,
And
this was
honestly.
I don't think pop music has been as championed as it was in 2010 with this album, to be
And
honest.
this was before Poptimism.
oh, education. Yeah, it was.
Education.
Yeah, it
So,
was.
which we'll get into. Okay. Let me get into it. So it's her second studio album. It's her sophomore album. And I think it would be considered one of the greatest sophomore albums of all time. Just saying.
Take
It
that,
was released
Beatles.
August it was released August 24th, 2010. She primarily works with Max Martin, Dr. Luke, who we've spoken about, 143
Boo.
Boo, Benny Blanco, Stargate, and Greg Wells. Those were the producing partners. Um, so yeah, and then I'll read this quotes that gives a lot of why this album was so successful. With California Girls, Teenage Dream, Firework, E.T., and Last Friday Night, Teenage Dream is the second album in history to have five number one singles after Michael Jackson's album Bad to top the Billboard Hot 100, and it's the only album to be achieved by a woman because it's a woman's world. So yeah,
Oh,
that's obviously a huge point of the success of the album. Hit after hit after hit after hit after hits. And then yeah, so the album debuted at number one on the Billboard 200, and it sold 192,000 copies the first week. And actually, fun fact, it has now completed 400 weeks on the chart as of November 30th, 2024.
Whoa.
So now it's over 400 weeks on the
whoa,
chart.
pretty good.
Whoa, pretty good. So the genre, it is like probably the purest pop that you can probably get. It's definitely a bit of a shift from her first album, which is One of the Boys. There's definitely more of rock influence in that one. And this album, I feel like she's finding more of a persona and like the character that you more recognize her as, like the kind of like silly, kind of stupid, smart, kind of fun kind of personality that you would more recognize her with now. Um, and I read something really interesting on the Wikipedia page of the album. It said that this persona in this album was going from a Shirley Temple Betty Boop to more of a Betty Page pop art sarcastic fun picture. Like they related Teenage Dream to like Liechtenstein, which I thought was so funny.
Whoa.
I know. Still bright, but the colors are more saturated and it's more metallic fuchsia or purple than just bubblegum pink.
Yeah, I
Which I
love
think is
that.
also kind of interesting because I feel like in retrospect, looking at it now, I feel like more people would probably say that Teenage Dream is a more basic kind of album than maybe like One of the Boys. Like, wouldn't you say? I don't know. But I feel like One of the Boys was like so similar to what every other album at the time was sounding. Like, we're not really, I don't know, just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Um, so another part of the album that I think is like the coolest thing ever is the artwork. The artwork was actually painted on 6x6 canvas by an artist named Will Cotton. He made paintings of clouds like prior, like he was really he did a lot of paintings of like the clouds that you see on it. Um, and Katy found him and asked him to paint the album cover, and he did it. And he also then did the art direction for the California Girls music video. Um, but it's also kind of interesting. So Katie wanted this album cover to be really good because she thought it was going to be her last cover that like people would physically buy. Like because this was at the time when CDs were kind of going out. So she was like, this is going to be my last album cover. I want to make it like the best one that I will ever do.
Oh
Whoa.
wow.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting and
And
obviously
so
true.
yeah. Well, now like vinyls are so in. I
Right.
feel like no one could have predicted like the vinyl resurgence, but like
No,
definitely CDs are out. Um,
I know, but then it's like, are CDs going to be in like 30 years? The way that
right.
like vinyl, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
I guess you could say it's never really over.
Oh.
Oh, oh,
CDs are definitely starting to be a little bit more trendy as far as collecting goes because they're a lot easier to store and more cost effective than having a vinyl collection.
I feel like also signed CDs are in. Like a lot of artists will do signed CDs for all of their releases to get,
Yeah.
yeah. And also another huge thing, so the album cover that you will see that like she put out is the one without words on the cover. That was the one that she like was like, this is what the album is gonna be. The album has no words on the cover, which that I think is the best too. Yeah, it's my favorite album cover of all time. I think it's like literally the best image of her. It's like the best cover. Um, so yeah, so at the time, the album received very mixed critical reception. And it was before this kind of poptimism that we talked about a lot on the pod. Um, but it's kind of fun because it kind of came a lot of
Oh,
end of decade and end of year lists.
hey, can you say what you just said again?
I got you. Um, so the album received very mixed critical reception. Um, it was kind of before this poptimism that we've talked about. But it actually ended up on a lot of end of decade and end of year lists. So it was number 14 on the Billboard 100 Greatest Albums of the 2010s. And then it was number 4 on the Rolling Stone 50 Best Songs of the 2010s for Teenage Dream. So
Oh, wow.
she came back around. But at the time, it was nominated for 7 Grammys. For Album of the Year, Pop Vocal Album, Female Pop Vocal Performance for Teenage Dream, and Pop Collaboration for California Girls. And then the next year, it got nominated for Firework for Record of the Year and Pop Solo. So slay, Katy.
Dang.
Yes. So Pitchfork actually reviewed it as they gave it a 6.8. They actually re-reviewed it in 2021 because I don't think they reviewed it at the time. Um, which their review was kind of like eye roll, but
I
I
actually
didn't like
really,
highlight anything.
Well,
I
what's the new
actually,
score?
6.8. They didn't review it
so
at first.
Oh, 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 oh. Got it, got
in
it,
their
got it.
like retrospective things that they do like each Sunday,
Yes, yes,
um,
yes. Oh, yeah.
taking apart the score, I read the review this morning and I actually thought the writing was really interesting. Even if I didn't agree with every point, I thought the writing was really interesting and inspired like more kind of critical thought about the record that I put into my notes, which I'll share in a bit. So I actually do think that review is worth reading if you want to have like if you just want to like engage with a good piece of music criticism. Again, like not making a judgment about the score because like I don't necessarily agree with that score, but I do think it makes some interesting points about the album.
Cool. Okay, cool. So kind of promoting the album. Um, she did the California Dreams tour, which was it went from February 2011 to January 2012. Um, it was a really successful tour. It was like the first kind of tour that she was able to do like what we see now, like kind of started by Madonna, the whole like theatrical kind of tour experience. Because for the tour that she did for One of the Boys, it was kind of like a park and bark situation. Um, and then in 2012, after the tour concluded, she released the Part of Me documentary, which was it's like my favorite celebrity documentary. Um, she released it with the single Part of Me. Um, and yeah, and then after that, we're only talking about the standard edition of Teenage Dream for this episode, but for kind of seeing how the album progresses, and we can definitely talk about the what I'm about to talk about, but it came out with the complete confection, which was a few more singles added on, including Wide Awake, Part of Me. And then she also put in this kind of confection, she put the E.T. Kanye West remix, and then also the One That Got Away acoustic remix, and also another track called Dressin' Up, which no one ever talks about. Um, so yeah, so this is like definitely my favorite album by her. That's kind of like the basics of what. I wanted to cover for the episode. But yeah, I think I'm ready for you all to kind of give me your thoughts on it.
Well, who do you want to go first?
Levi.
I knew you were gonna pick me. I had this feeling. Um, yeah, so it was really interesting for me to revisit this album, looking at it as a full body of work. Because for me, kind of like what Drew said earlier, so much of the success and the ubiquity of this album is tied to the singles. And I don't mean that as shade at all, because what she was able to achieve, not just commercially with this single run, but culturally, is insane. All of these singles, all five of those number one songs, and I would add the sixth single, the one that got away, which I believe peaked at number three on the Hot 100. Fact check, anyone? Um, I think all of those songs have surpassed any kind of test of time. They have passed it. They have cemented themselves as iconic, essential pop music moments. I think that they stand so large culturally. I mean, we're about, almost 15 years post Teenage Dream. And I think people who maybe were 1 years old when it was released would be able to sing you the chorus of at least one of these songs. Um, 15 years on, these songs still live in bars, in clubs, in any kind of situation. If you're in a public gathering and one of these songs come on, people will start singing. And that kind of like cultural longevity is something that is not to be messed with or played around about. I find it so impressive, and like this hit the cultural sweet spot in really such an impressive way. So that being said, it was interesting to look at it as an album, not defined by the songs, but as a full body of work. And so my first kind of observation is that I find this to be a historical document. So, kind of similar to the way that I'm going to use an analogy to kind of explain what I'm talking about. So, earlier in this year, when the Mean Girls movie musical was coming out, I rewatched the original Mean Girls. And it kind of occurred to me, and in conjunction with conversations I was having with people, stuff I was reading online, that the original Mean Girls really is historical fiction. It's a period piece. It only can exist to the full effectiveness that it does in the original movie in like the early aughts. Um, it doesn't really have the same punch when like technology is more advanced. So in like a more contemporary time or before there was any kind of technology, it really is a period piece. And I think Teenage Dream is like a historical artifact from 2010. This album is what it feels like to have been alive in 2010. For me, it is the peak of recession era pop music. So at a time when millions of Americans were obviously struggling financially, the music that was really resonating was kind of about like having it all. And it was fun and it was bright and it was synthy. It was party music. It was dancey music. It was not, serious ballads. It was not acoustic instruments. The music that was topping the charts and resonating with people, and the music that people were downloading on their iPods and buying CDs at the store, and requesting their radio stations to play. It was songs like this, and Teenage Dream encapsulates all of that perfectly. It is like the peak of recession era pop music, and that's because that's what Teenage Dream is about. Teenage Dream is an album about having it all. It's about being in love, being young, being beautiful, being having fun, expressing self-confidence. Like it's about having everything you want, which I think is kind of why it resonated so much with people at the time as sort of an escapist fantasy. So that was kind of my first point that I wanted to make. And just kind of similarly, I think this is such an example of like a lightning in a bottle moment, something that came out at the exact right time when it was needed most. I don't think it would have had the same impact if it had been released a few years earlier in like Bush administration. Because the other thing, I think this is like peak Obama liberalism. Because in the Obama years and during the Obama administration, so much of the things that culturally were impactful were things that were lighter, things that were more fun. I mean, I think the kind of trends tend to happen is when there's an administration in office that I would say is probably like more conservative. Uh, Kind of the things that land culturally seem to be a bit darker. And this album to me, just like it so perfectly was released. Um, and obviously, like the right collaborators and the right pop star and the right brand and the right music videos, like everything about this era was executed so perfectly that like it's insane to think like if just one thing had been different, like every like maybe like we're not here talking about this album, years later, but it's such an example of a perfectly executed pop era that was released at the exact right time when the audience needed and wanted and craved it most. I think it would be very easy to be cynical about an album like this because this is pop music at its busiest. It is dizzying, it is sugary, it's effervescent, it's ridiculous, it's silly. But listening back to it a few times, I think the thing that I find to be almost most impressive about the album is how deeply committed Katy is to every single bit of it. Her vocal performances on this album and just the entire personality that she brings to the record is so charming and she's so fiercely in it. And like an example I had is Firework. So I was listening to Firework and I was getting teared up. I was like having an emotional reaction. And that's insane because that song starts with the lyric, "Do you ever feel like a plastic bag?" Like it is a ridiculous, crazy song. And I think that if somebody wasn't singing it with the kind of like commitment and belief in it that Katy is, if somebody was being a bit more winking, or if somebody like lacked the kind of natural humor and charm that she has, I think it would come off as a huge misstep and like completely miss the mark. But it made me really emotional because even though it's ridiculous and even though it's like in kind of the stuff that she's talking about is cuckoo, it really hits home and it really resonates with people. And I think that's kind of a great example of what makes this album so special and what has made it resonate with so many people is that, for all the campiness and the kind of dumb humor that you talked about earlier, Drew, and the silliness, like there is something that like really impacts people chemically and emotionally. And that's kind of what great pop music is. I also think that there's just something very American about this album in the sense that to me, this is a hungry album, not just thematically, even though there's a lot of that. I mean, I think that she's hungry for love in this album. She's hungry to have fun. She's hungry to, you know, live the kind of teenage dream fantasy, California girls fantasy that she wants to live. But I also think contextually, there's a lot of hunger present just in her at this moment in her career. Um, she is not somebody who had an easy path towards stardom. She was told no so many times. She was dropped by record labels so many times. She had so many false starts. She like thought that she was gonna like, release an album with this record label and then they dump her. And then the same thing would happen again, and then they dump her. Um, and obviously she had a lot of success with one of the boys, but I think that there was still a really high chance at the time that she could have been a flash in the pan that like, I Kissed a Girl was maybe going to be a one hit wonder. And then when Hot and Cold blew up, okay, well, then maybe it's just going to be this one era, but she's going to kind of fade away, almost kind of like a Megan Trainor in a way. And I think that at this point, she was really hungry to prove herself as no, I'm going to be the biggest pop star in the world. Like, I'm going to sell out arenas and I'm going to sell millions and millions of records and I'm going to have not just one number one song, not just two number one songs, but multiple and multiple number one songs. I mean, I was reading interviews and like quotes from her at the time, and the thing that really struck me was like just how like sure of herself she was and how like much she wanted to be the biggest thing. And there's something very American about that, specifically with this kind of album. Like, I don't know, it almost feels like this could, be called like American Dream in addition to being called like Teenage Dream. So that's just kind of like, I guess my like not pretentious, but like my kind of like thoughts on like the cultural impact and the kind of context that this album exists in. I think this album is actually a very complex thing to talk about, and I think that you can have a lot of really nuanced conversation and observations about it, which is funny because it's an album that is so fizzy and fun. But I don't know, it just inspired like a lot of kind of deep thoughts about when it was released and the way that we embraced pop music at that time for, whatever reason. So getting into the actual music, I think the highs of this album, it's as good as pop music gets. Like pop music does not get better than the title track of Teenage Dream of this out. Like that is pop music at its finest. Every single single is an absolute smash. So many of the album tracks could have been smashes. I think that there is an alternative universe where Hummingbird Heartbeat is number one on the Hot 100 for
Bro, Hummingbird
39,000 views.
Heartbeat lead single.
I,
There's
I
another
mean, bro,
universe.
there is another, and it has the exact same impact. Oh, can I actually mention something though? Something I thought was really interesting. Um, that kind of it was in that Pitchfork article that I thought was interesting is she positioned California Girls at the time as kind of like the West Coast response to Empire State of Mind, which
Yes, I
like
read that as well.
Jay Z and Alicia Keys, which was a huge hit around that time, and like the Pitchfork writer characterized it in a really interesting way. They were like Empire State of Mind is all about having ambition and kind of the grind and working hard. And then California Girls is about having it all and reveling in it and celebrating that, which I think kind of represents a very like California, kind of like the cultural idea of what California is versus what the cultural idea of New York is in a way that I thought was really interesting. And again, I think that shows how savvy she was at this time to think about that, to like pick a lead single that like could respond to something that was already super successful, but make it her own and like have that kind of like cultural conversation in a way that I think is really interesting. So yeah, I just wanted to say that as well because that was like, oh, that's really that kind of intrigued something in me. So yeah, but Hummingbird Heartbeat is we know how everyone should feel about Hummingbird Heartbeat. If you don't feel this way about Hummingbird Heartbeat, get help. Not like the movies, I think is one of her best ballads. It's such a phenomenal album closer. These songs just have hooks. Like there's just hook, 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 hook. There's this meme that I've seen before. My friend Zach has used this before to describe a Carly Rae Jepsen song called "Bad Thing Twice," and it's like this like fish from SpongeBob that has like 1,000 hooks in his mouth, and like that's what this album
Yes.
is. Like
Yes.
look at the title track. There are lesser pop songs where the verse melody would be the chorus melody and it would be perfect. Or the bridge melody would be the chorus. Or the pre-chorus would be the chorus. You know, like there's hook, hook, hook. I feel that way about E.T. The verse is so catchy and it's so like monumental. And then the kiss me, kiss me comes in and it's like, oh my God. The hook, hook, hook factory is overloaded. It's crazy. I mean, it's just it's pretty insane. I think these songs are
Fish
punchy.
hooks on Disney XD.
It literally is fish hooks. These songs are to the point. And something else that I want to say is, I think that they always leave you wanting more, which is in my mind what a good pop song should have you do. You should never feel like you like got everything you want from a pop song. Like an example of this for me is "Cruel Summer" by Taylor Swift. Every single time I want the chorus to come back in again. I want just another chorus, and I feel that way about this record. Like every single time I listen to I keep talking about the title track, but it's just like perfect. Every single time I listen to that song, I'm like, oh, I want
She's
it
that
again.
girl.
Give it to me again, please. Please, can I have some more? I mean, that's what pop music is supposed to be. It's supposed to be built on melodies that are strong enough to leave you constantly craving. Constantly Craving by Katy Lang. Love you. So yeah, so it's just it's so impressive to me as somebody who loves pop music and like the way that pop music gets created. It's pretty astounding. So the moments to me that don't work as well as like the obvious highlights and some of these like hidden gems like Hummingbird Heartbeat I think it's when, for me, she's straying away from the teenage dream concept. Because throughout this entire record, she creates this like escapist fantasy land where it's always summer and there's cotton candy clouds in the sky. And like the water is like turquoise blue and there's mermaids floating around and like the sand is purple and everybody has perfect beach ready bodies. And there are the entire so much of the album is like a response to this. It's either her loving that she's living in this world, like California Girls or Last Friday Night, or it's her yearning for this kind of world, yearning for things that make her feel like this. Like the one that got away, it's her looking back on this moment and it's like you they like this was a teenage dream and now you're gone and like now I'm always looking for it. Or not like the movies, which is her hoping that like, a prince will come and take her away to the castle in this like magical fantasy land. And it's the moments where she turns her attention away from that concept, which is for me moments like Circle the Drain, Who Am I Living For, and Pearl, that the power and punch of the album dissipates a little bit for me. Um, and for me, like those songs feel like moments that were intentionally placed there to like bring a darker edge or a moment of vulnerability or like some more serious moments. But with an album with this title and this album cover, I don't want like a big power ballad. I don't want like gritty guitars. Like that's not really kind of the this is not what I signed up for. It's like I got on the Teenage Dream train and now we're at the Circle the Drain stop. It's all grungy and the metal's rusted, and I don't want that. That's probably great for another album for the Circle the Drain train, but I'm on the Teenage Dream train, and I want Teenage Dream stops. So it just like to me, there's a bit of a disconnect there. And last thing I have to say, my last note is I've been on record of saying that Prism is my favorite Katy album. I think I've said that maybe on the podcast before, and that's always kind of been what I'm saying. Revisiting this album and really sitting down with it, I'm a bit more conflicted um, because I think that Prism has a bit more of a like narrative structure, especially in the second half of the album. I think it's just a little tighter. And like that is something that normally is a big thing for me in albums. Like I really gravitate towards albums that like have kind of a storyline or like explore themes and like have a bit of a narrative. And like you can, I think really kind of starting in the second half of that album, you can like hear her like process the divorce kind of in real time that she had with Russell Brand. However, this album is just undeniable. Like the highs in this album, you just can't deny them. I like you can't deny how good these songs are. And so I'm like, do I like gravitate towards something that I think maybe like structurally is a bit more coherent and like something that I maybe find more cohesive or something that has like the highs that this album has. So I'm jury's out on that one. I don't know if my answer is going to change, but yeah, that's kind of the Levi Knife initial take on Teenage Dream.
Slay.
Love.
Love. I love this deep delve. I wish you were writing on Pitchfork.
I wish to because first of all never would have
The
disrespected
the
Halsey the
review
way
was
that.
fine. I just like I wish they would have talked more about what they didn't like about the music rather than like I feel like the review was just giving me like a Wikipedia summary of what the record was, which is fine. But I wanted like a little more. Like I wanted something that I could bring to Pop Girlies.
Yeah.
Um, which is fine because I know that's what they have to do with like the retrospective things and whatever.
Yeah, I
But
feel
yeah.
like the retrospective, a lot of times I feel like they talk more about like the cultural stuff rather than like
Yeah.
the actual music.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, amazing
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
But
So
again,
that was a
Amy,
very academic take, Levi. I love it.
oh, well, I'm the resident academic of Pop Girlies.
Right.
Yes.
I have a cap and gown.
Right. Okay.
So,
Miss Maria, thoughts?
yes. Oh my gosh. Well, yes, I'll get into it. I just want to say, and kind of expanding on some things that Levi has already said, being alive in 2010 genuinely meant that you had heard almost this entire album organically without even seeking it out, which is crazy to think about. But like for me, and my kind of experience with this album specifically in these songs, like I when I hear anything from this, I'm instantly transported to 2010. And I have very vivid and poignant memories in my brain of like the first time I had heard some of these songs. Or like I remember genuinely exactly where I was the first time I ever heard I Kissed a Girl. I was in a roller rink
I
for a girl's
remember my
birthday.
first time hearing I Kissed a Girl too.
Oh my God.
Wait, same.
I was in the Kayla Curbs' car. Kayla Curbs was my babysitter, and she was like dropping something off at someone's house, and she left me like a dog in the car with like the radio turned on. And
Okay,
I
maybe more to unpack later.
well, no, because this is funny because the song came on, and this is really embarrassing, but I think it's because of like the kind of like richness of her tone vocally. I thought she was a man.
Oh,
And
You
so
know,
she's
can I
singing
be
about
vulnerable for a second too?
yeah.
The first time I heard Rolling in the Deep by Adele, I thought Adele was a man.
oh,
Like, and so when she's singing
two
about I Kissed a
smashes though.
Girl,
Two
when she's singing I Kissed a
smashes.
Girl, I'm like, okay, who cares? Like, that's what boys do. Boys kiss girls. This was before the sexual awakening of Levi Welch, obviously. Um,
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, Boys Kiss Girls. Like, what are we on about? And then when I realized that it was a pretty girl singing the song, I was like, oh, wait, that's a serve. Pretty
What are
girl
we
singing
on
about
about?
literally.
I was in the boat. Like the first time I really remember listening to it, I was on a boat and we were listening to it.
Ugh,
Yeah.
love. But yeah, the first time I
And I
heard I
remember
Kissed a
looking
Girl,
at the iPod and like the cover art because like the
The
cover art
cover
for
art is so
I Kissed
good.
a Girl is so good. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, and like all of these songs, like especially for those ones from Teenage Dream too, it's like I remember very vividly, like all of my memories of this are summertime. All of them are me like having slumber parties or whatever. So like just what I happened to be doing as a 10-year-old when all this music was coming out just really fit the vibe. So for that, that's a serve. But yeah, and something too, because it's like again, this era, it has there probably a file in my brain of like all of my memories of like the impact of Katy Perry on culture, especially around this time. But something too, because around this time, Katy Perry was always wearing the same wigs, kind of that were very structured with the bangs and the curls, like a little bit longer than shoulder length. And again, I was 10 years old, and I didn't really understand the concept of the fact that celebrities were like wearing wigs all the time. So I was like, wow, she really dyes her hair like every day. Good for her. Like she is serving and it looks great every time. Yeah, I genuinely thought she was wearing wigs all the time. So I think when I probably realized that that wasn't the case when I was sat in the movie theater for the Part of Me documentary and was just like, wait, no, the illusion it just shattered. But but yeah, so I mean, getting into the music of this though, I mean, just insanity. Just yeah, literally being alive meant that you heard almost every single one of these songs. And yeah, everything is aging beautifully for the most part. And then it's kind of interesting though, like the songs that you mentioned, Levi, where it's like, oh, it doesn't really fit like the exact vibe, or like it's the moments where like the cohesion is a little bit lost, were the ones that I had never heard before because they weren't singles or like they never, got a lot of traction. So I wonder if when they were creating this album, if they were like, this like candy, glittery, poppy, fizzy concept, like I think we need to put some other songs in here to like mix it up because conceptually people will not want an entire album of like bubblegum pop. Like I just have to assume that that's why they included some songs that tonally have a completely different vibe. But then looking back, it's like, oh, I want an entire album of front to back nonstop bubblegum pop. So it is very interesting, kind of looking back and hearing those songs. Also, admittedly, before the early part of this year of 2024, I had never heard this album front to back before. But then I did listen to it, obviously earlier in the year, and heard a couple of these songs for the first time. So like I had never heard Circle the Drain, Who Am I Living For, Pearl, and I think I had heard Hummingbird Heartbeat before, but for the sake of consistency, let's just say I'd never heard it before. Maybe I didn't. And then I know for a fact I'd heard Not Like the Movies before, and that one live rendition that you really like, Drew. So yeah. But like for me, this is just a complete time machine, and it takes me back to 2010 and the following years, and just like how much of an impact and long lasting effects that this had on pop culture in general, because all of these songs just instantly, I think, became so timeless. And yeah, I do love the consistency of it. Listening to it as like a full piece front to back, I think I did kind of find the tracks where it isn't exactly fitting the vibe of bubblegum pop. I did find them interesting. Um, but yeah, I do wonder what a version of this looked like, where there are just like more versions of like Teenage Dream and Last Friday Night and all that good stuff. Also the music video for Last Friday Night is obviously super iconic. Um,
Her best. Yeah. I think that's my favorite Katy video for sure.
oh really? I think my favorite one is E.T.
E.T. is good
Um,
too. Yeah.
but yeah, the Kanye West feature on like the um deluxe version of it, I suppose, is like one of my least favorite features of all time. I hate it
Yeah,
so much.
it got her the number one, but no one cares about the Kanye West version.
It is,
I want the this is transcendental on another level.
yeah, the feature's so bad. I hate it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like that's those are really my points. I think the thing that Levi mentioned about like the hunger of this album is really interesting because I think conceptually throughout the whole thing there also is just like a food motif that I think is throughout it. Maybe not like lyrically, but like visually. Because also the Teenage Dream font and like other like if there's copy anywhere on any of this, it's like the candy cane font, which is lovely. And then like the Candyland aspects of the music video and all of this sort of stuff. So I think that's also kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, so much enjoyed kind of listening back to this. And obviously early in the year I heard some of those other tracks for the first time, which was super cool. But yeah, definitely a huge staple of like I think American culture in general, period. so so yeah, love Miss Teenage Dream.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I'll go into my kind of thoughts. So obviously this is my favorite album by like my favorite artist. So obviously huge win for me. I kind of like falling in love with the album was through the singles, kind of like what you all were mentioning. Um, but I really got into it because I went to, so I had really liked her. I loved all the singles. And then I got to go to the tour in 2012 she was playing in Kansas City where I'm from. And that was like her on another level because you got to really see her as like who she is, like just as a performer, like as an artist. And that's what I think really sold me. And it was also really cool because I had listened to, I think at the time I wasn't really thinking of albums as like complete bodies of work like I do now. So I wasn't really thinking about this whole kind of vibe that you two were mentioning that kind of brought you away from the album, like the tracks like Who Am I Living For, um, Circle the Drain, uh, those kind of taking you a little bit out. But actually seeing it live was what kind of brought me into those songs more. Because those were kind of when I was listening to it at first, those were kind of songs, especially like as a younger person, as like someone who was 11 years old, I would skip as well. But seeing it live, she does on the tour, she does E.T., Circle the Drain, and Who Am I Living For in one kind of act, I thought was really, really cool. And I think it kind of, for me, like listening to it more now, like as a concept, I think it does kind of like work in the fact where it's like kind of what Levi was saying, kind of like a hunger for the teenage dream. Like obviously, like with someone, Circle the Drain, obviously talking about someone who like is addicted to drugs. And it kind of like goes back to her One of the Boys kind of sound with the guitars. And I kind of love how she kind of has that kind of flashback. Like the first five tracks are so hopeful. It's so like, it's almost like not her in a way. Like she's kind of giving this huge facade and this like huge kind of, um, like she's kind of drifting away from herself as like a person. And I love how Circle the Drain kind of brings it back to her, and then you kind of go from track six to the end, kind of on this little like ride of her kind of dealing with it on an actual personal level, like her dealing with like relationships and things like that. But I completely understand like why when you hear like an album in tracks one through five, you like, well, I don't want like that. I totally understand why that would happen. Um, but yeah, but I love those tracks. Um, so yeah. And I think that I mean, yeah, this was the album that I really loved her first album, but this was the one that really got me into like really standing her. Um, Seeing her perform was like insane. It's like one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to. Um, yeah, it like really made me fall in love with like pop music, like as something that we all like love so much. So yeah, I don't know where I would
Wait,
be
Drew, I
if
have
I
a question
didn't.
for you.
Yeah.
So obviously you went to this tour. When
Yeah,
you like think back on it, do you have a lot of memories of experiencing it, or was it
yeah.
something where you were so excited you just
No,
like blacked out?
no, it was the first concert that I'd been to that had like that was structured. Uh
Yeah, like a
like
performance.
I will never forget like watching because before she comes out, there's like a prologue and it's
Uh-huh.
her like as like it's her, but she like works in a butcher shop
Yeah.
and like the guy who like she's working for like is so mean to her and then she like is with her little cat and it's very like Wizard of Oz. And
Yeah.
then I remember there's a part how she comes out is the guitars in Teenage Dream start strumming and she goes through her door in her room and then it's like the Candyland set that you see in
Yeah.
the yeah. So it's yeah, I will never forget that.
Ugh,
Also
love.
like a huge part is at the end she does a cover of um Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody, and she invites like half of the pit on stage like to dance
Yeah.
with her. Like I'd never seen something like that.
And
Yeah.
was it not Dua Lipa who that happened
Yep,
to?
Dua was one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like she did such a good job too of bringing in like the last songs. Like the performance of Waking Up in Vegas was so cool. There was like a bunch of like people dressed as like slot machines and like she had like a huge feather boa. Also like she did a huge rock rendition of I Kissed a Girl that was so good.
Oh,
Um yeah. Yeah. The
love.
only the only kind of thing that I would like to present to the Pop Girlies because I was thinking this when I was listening to it because I figured you guys would have the kind of thoughts and I just wanted to present this. So listening to it personally, I I think that the only like it's not a flaw, but I think the one thing if I were like in the Katy Perry HQ like when she was putting the track listing, if you switched Hummingbird Heartbeat and Last Friday Night, like if you made Last Friday Night track 11 right before Not Like the Movies and made Hummingbird Heartbeat number 2, would it flip it at all or would you still be like, yeah, I don't care about the middle?
I don't know if I would have liked Last Friday Night into Not Like the Movies as much as I like the transition between Hummingbird Heartbeat and Not Like the
Is that how
Movies.
you feel too?
I think it would have been too harsh.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
fair.
I get what you mean thematically of like last Friday night, like reminiscing on something, and then going into the final song. I actually really like Last Friday Night as the second song because to me it's like Teenage Dream is the Friday night. Like it's like that like euphoric night. And then the second song is like we're waking up and we're like, Jesus, what just happened? Like
Yeah.
I love that like 1-2 punch. And it's not just like I don't care about the middle because it's like it comes in little bursts because there's like the burst of like there's the circle the drain and then there's the smash of the century, the one that got away, which I think is like the perfect execution of kind of like the darker, maybe more vulnerable moments that I think some of the other songs are going for. And then there's Alien Sex Song of E.T. And then now we're back in a territory that I'm just like confused on. I don't even know if it's I don't care about it. It's just like, huh, I'm confused in how we got here because this isn't what I thought that we were doing. Um, yeah, and I just I like the Hummingbird Heartbeat placement and the Last Friday Night placement too much to want to switch them. I do think though that like I don't I'm not like married to this track list as like this is the like best version of this track list. Like I am interested to see like what you know what like variations people could come up with. I think obviously like Teenage Dream has to be the opening track and not like the movies has to be the final track. Um, but I'd be interested to see like if like you could maybe create more of like a story with the songs. Like I don't know. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, because the tour she did Hummingbird Heartbeat second. And I thought that worked really, really well. Because like the guitars come in with Teenage Dream and then it kind of the guitars keep going, but it kind of takes you into another direction. Um, but I don't know, just a thought. I always think that when I'm listening to it, I was like, how good would it be if Hummingbird Heartbeat was second? But no. Okay, cool.
Interesting.
Um, Yeah, that's really all I had. I mean, like, yeah, it's like Smash of the Century, like clearly. Um, yeah, that's really all I had. Was there anything else that you guys kind of wanted to talk about with this, or?
I think I just had actually a couple other things, which kind of I think, but for me, I think that this is the best, like ex not example, but like the best display of songs that are written specifically for Katy Perry's voice and like how
Mm,
she not pronounces things, but just like the way that she inflects while she sings because it's so unique. And I think so much of it emulates that like late 2010s, especially
mm,
with the sound that she started with like the more rock kind of vibe, which which like yeah, like the very like kind of characterize like kind of the way that she like chews on words, I think is really interesting. And the way that these songs are constructed, I think does a very great job of like championing that. Because yeah, she has like a such a very specific
Yeah.
like
Can I
vocal
give you a good,
emulation.
like, I wonder if we're thinking of the same scenario. Are you thinking about the bridge of Hummingbird Heartbeat?
Not specifically. I didn't have
Okay,
like a
okay.
super specific example, but like I think Circle the Drain is a good
Yes, that's a
example of
good one
that.
too.
Also well I don't want to I'm not gonna oh well that's just where I'm gonna stop. But
I
yes,
Oh,
think
I
oh,
think
you're stopping.
I
I'm
think
stopping.
Firework is a great example of that as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and then obviously Levi, the way I like that you brought up just her commitment to the bit in general, because I think that's like this album conceptually is a really great example of that because it has such a strong concept.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I just appreciate that that it's like if she's gonna have a vision, like the vision will be seen and understood by every person on the planet, and it was. So, but yeah, that's everything else I wanted to say.
Cool. Okay. So should we get into the hot? So let's do the Holy Trinity first, and we can do it separately, and then we can do the Mies.
Okay.
Okay.
So Levi, go first.
Okay. Holy Trinity time. So my three is Firework. I kind of already talked about. I just think that song is like, I think it's perfect. And like that song is just so, it's nostalgic, it's silly, it's emotional, it's sweet. I think it has some of my favorite production on it. Like I love the way that the synths sound in the beginning of it. I think the melody is just incredible. I also love that like it's a Fourth of July song. Like I think it's funny that like Fourth of July has like music. So yeah, Firework is just like smash, 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 smash. Two is the title track, like pop perfection all the way. Um, Everything you could want in a pop song. And then my number one is the one that got away, which I just think is like the songwriting in the song. I think is just pretty crazy. Um, it's like very sophisticated. I think structurally and lyrically, it's like has all the personality and charm of a Katy Perry lyric without some of her clunkers that she likes to throw in occasionally. There's no centipedes crawling on the one that got away. It's like the story, the way that she tells the story, I think is so incredible. She sounds incredible on it. And I would like to say, since I have a podcast and this is for opinions, I know that a lot of people prefer the acoustic version of the song, but I don't. I prefer the normal version of the song because I think the production, those like driving drums that like come in and never stop, and like the swell on the chorus, like I think that adds so much to the emotion. I think that like with the acoustic, it plays in almost a little too much to the sentimentality of the song, where I think that like the more restrained vocal on her part, which is so beautiful on the normal version, along with that like kind of relentless drum beat, I think is just really, really great and kind of like makes me it to me like it sounds like regret, which I don't really get from like the acoustic version. So yeah, the one that got away is just like it is always fighting for my title of my favorite Katy Perry song.
P.
Slay. I know. Wait, Maria, do you have thoughts on the acoustic version?
Um, not a not a whole lot of thoughts, but like
Okay.
I think I would also prefer the original album
Okay.
version. Yeah, I like the production on it a lot.
Yeah. I do prefer the acoustic version just because I think her vocals are like I think that's probably like the best her voice has ever sounded in a studio recording of a song. But I understand, like I'm not like against the produced version. It was also kind of interesting because she would perform that song a lot when she was like getting a divorce. And so like her doing that version in the studio was like insane. And also when she released it, it was like with part of me like after the divorce thing kind of
Hmm.
happened. So it had like you can tell she's like crying in the song, which I don't know. But like it's also kind of one of those things where I kind of almost consider them two separate things because um yeah, I mean yeah, I think that they are two very separate kind of things. Um you feel different things when you're listening to both of them. Um, so yeah,
Also,
interesting.
the music video for the song is like crazy. I will never forget seeing that for the first time.
Yeah, it's insane.
Okay. So is it my turn? I'll go.
Yes.
Um, so my top three is kind of crazy, and I think I may have pointed you guys in the wrong direction unintentionally as to what I thought about some of the songs album because my number three is Circle the Drain.
There we go. Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, I love Circle the Drain. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, that song kind of feels like it was like written for me to like it specifically. Um, not to be
Girl,
overzealous. But I think her voice sounds so good on that song. Like I think that kind of instrumentation just goes so well with her voice. It's like why her first album's so great.
have you seen how it's performed live at all? Like it's in the movie, but do you remember? So this is the
No,
part
I don't
of
remember.
the tour where she goes from like the bubblegum pop and then she turns into the black cat.
Oh, I think I remember that costume
Yeah.
or like whatever she was wearing. That
And
rings a
then when she
bell.
performs Who Am I Living For, all of her dancers are attached to like really long strings. And they
Oh,
like shift her like into like different it was really cool.
oh, I see.
Yeah. So it's like yeah.
See. Yeah. Oh my God. So love that. So yeah, that's my third song. Um, my number two, if you listen to last week's episode, you probably know what it is. But my number two is Peacock. One of my favorite Katy Perry songs, period. And Levi does not like that. I like that song. But I love that song so much. It's so fun.
It's camp, it's
Um,
concept.
it is camp. Yeah.
It's
So
Katy.
sorry. Levi's so disappointed. But yeah, I love that song. And then number one is my favorite Katy Perry song of all time, and it's E.T.
Yeah.
Wow, no overlap. That's so interesting. I kind of was expecting that though, because I thought that this was really hard to figure out my top three. I had a really hard
It
time
is
figuring it
hard.
out because there's so many strong contenders.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
E.T., another thing about E.T. that I love is she does it so good live. Um, Especially now. She opened her play residency with it. And the way that she sings it so good now. It's like so tailored to her voice. So
Yeah.
yeah, she always like belts like crazy on that song. I love that song.
Yeah. I love that one so much. And yeah, it's like another moment where it's like I remember watching the music video on my little iPod and being like fully transformed. It was like that and then like Marry the Night, where I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Pop music.
Whoa.
So yeah. So Drew, time for yours.
Cool. Okay, so my number three is Hummingbird Heartbeat. Um, yeah. Levi and I kind of talked about it. It's the T.
It's perfection.
She could have
It
literally
literally,
had a sixth number one with it.
it sounds like what Desire feels like. Like
Yes.
I turn into
Ooh.
Desire when I listen to it.
Yeah. The initial drums after the intro.
Yes, and like the murmur of like the synthy, if you don't know if they're synths or guitars, and then you get like the yeah, the drums,
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Because it's yeah. Duh,
Yeah.
cat. Whoa, go to the ground.
Literally every time I listen to it, I'm like, this song is literally one of her best songs of all time, and probably 90% of the world doesn't even know about it.
It's crazy that a song that good. That's like just outside my top three. I think that was like four.
Yeah.
That was I have my ranking. That was four for me. It
Yeah.
was just outside.
Yeah. And so my number two is the title track. So good. And then my number one is not like the movies,
Oh,
because it's just that girl. I think it's probably like top three Katy songs for me. Um, yeah.
So there's
Also the way
crazy.
she
There was only one overlap. You and I had the only overlap, and it was the title track. There was no other
yeah,
overlap. Maria and you didn't have any overlap, and Maria and I didn't have any other overlap.
yeah.
whoa.
Another part of
Anyways,
the tour that I think Maria would appreciate in the not like the movies performance, she performs it on a swing.
Yeah.
And there's like cartoons, love stories playing behind her, but
Oh,
also in the song, there's a bunch of bubbles that are being kind
uh-huh.
of shut up. But when they pop, it turns into vapor. So like the vapor like kind of so
Oh,
you
I
can see them
see.
pop. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's so funny because it's like we before we started recording, we're talking about Grease for a second, and that makes me think of the song in Grease that Danny sings when the movies are playing behind him. Do you
Yep.
know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Oh my
And then
God.
she also, so for her Grammy performance for when Teenage Dream was nominated, she performed Not Like the Movies on the Grammys. And then she did Not Like the Movies into Teenage Dream, which I thought was so good. Which is
Oh,
also
that's
really
so
annoying
cool.
because it's not like you cannot find this performance anywhere.
Oh, that's so annoying. I
It's so annoying.
there's so many like Grammy performances and SNL performances like that where it's like why aren't we able to access this media? Like what is keeping us
Yeah.
from it? What like copyright restrictions are keeping us from being able to watch these? It's so annoying.
Yeah. It's so good, but that's probably my favorite performance that she's done. It's like
That's
insane how
super
good that is.
cool.
Because it was also kind of peak like are they gonna get a divorce? And then she like went on the Grammys and sang that. It was like so good.
Whoa.
Um, so yeah. Okay, Levi, what's your me?
my me is Peacock. I'm sorry. I find it grating, infuriating. It's not fun to me. It's like also the track list up to that point is so perfect because we have title track into Last Friday Night, into California Girls, into Firework, and everything for me comes to a grinding halt the second that those cheerleading chants come in. I like don't think it's fun. I don't and it's like it's not there's a fine line for me of like silly stupid humor where if you get it just right, it's silly and stupid, but it's also genius. And I think do you ever feel like a plastic bag is like that? And like almost every like think I need a ginger ale, that was such an epic fail. For me, that like falls perfectly into that like super little narrow tightrope. Peacock to me isn't even just a little bit of a step off that tightrope. It is 5,000 yards away from that tightrope. It's it's like honestly made me really uncomfortable when I was listening to it again this morning. I was like, I cannot believe I'm listening to this bridge right now. I don't want to be hearing this. I didn't ask for this. It's like that meme of like, I'm 17 and I'm afraid of Sabrina Carpenter. Like that is me listening to Peacock. It's just it's a no for me in all directions. No, I can't do it. I really can't do it.
Oh,
Well, honestly, Levi, I understand your intense feelings about it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. For me,
I
it's just like
understand why
I
you would
find it
love it
really
or hate
fun.
it.
Yeah.
You both love it though, because you love it, Drew, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
for me
just
though, for
that's
me,
enough
I
for
think that it could conceptually be about something completely different, but if it sounded the exact same, I think I would still like it just as much.
me. Really?
Yeah.
See, because I don't like the melody. I don't like the because I don't like the production in it. Like that song to me sounds the most dated out of anything on the record. Because I think everything
That's
else kind
fair.
of sounds timeless. Like I think any of those songs could be released in any decade and be hits. but
Yeah.
like Peacock to me is not
That's
for
that's
me.
that's fair, honestly. I mean, like I like yeah, I really like the melody. And again, like it just so happens that she's talking about what she's talking about in the song. It literally could be about anything else, and I think I would still have a fun time listening to it. Like I don't like it because of what she's saying. I'll say that. I like I like the song sonically.
Right.
Just to say.
Right.
Okay, well, what's your me then, Maria?
Mine's gonna be Who Am I Living For? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have any like specific feelings about it. I mean, there's no songs on this album that I like fully dislike. I'm like, that just kind of ended up being the last one, really.
I that song does it for me because of the performance that she does with the ropes.
Yeah.
It's insane. If you watch that, it'll be a number one.
Oh,
If I watch that, it'll be favorite Katy song of all time.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Drew.
My me is again, I don't dislike any song. This is just the song that ended up last, but it's Pearl.
yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
I will say though, when I was a kid, I was forced to mow the lawns for my dad's bank, and I remember having many impassioned lawn mowing push listening to that song.
It's a very passionate song.
It's a passion song, and to me, out of the ones that like out of that song, Circle the Drain, and Who Am I Living For, the ones that kind of don't fit in with the rest of the album for me, it's my favorite of those three.
Okay. Okay, that's fair.
I'm sorry, I can't join the Circle the Drain fan club. I feel like I'm on the
Yeah, that's
outskirts.
crazy. Circle the Drain is a banger. I don't like I was like hoping that I was like I'm not the only one who thinks this. Okay, the utensil time.
Oh, I'm so scared.
Okay, Levi, you wanna Oh wait, no, Drew Fork has to be
I'm
first.
not going first. No, Levi Knife is last.
Okay, Drew Fork first. Drew Fork rating, shocker, it's a 10. Like, and I
Seven.
was debating going a little lower, like I was, but I do kind of think it's perfect. Um, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I don't think that there's any song that, like Pearl, it being my least favorite, there's nothing that I like really dislike about it. It just happened to be last. Um, and yeah, everything about it, the imagery, the promotion, everything, I think is perfect. So yeah.
Larv.
Okay, Maria Spoon, dip into the knowledge.
Dipping into the knowledge. I'm gonna say, well, like obviously the album's really great. I think as far as like albums that I love, 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 I don't think I can put this in the nines with the rest of the albums that I really love because it's just not my favorite in that way, if you will.
Okay.
But I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it an 8.5. Because obviously all of these songs are
Okay.
really great, but when I have a hard time listening to this casually, and maybe
Right.
that's why it's like not like super duper up there for me. But yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm gonna give it.
Seems a little low,
Mm,
but okay.
Oh,
yeah. Levi.
I would like to make the caveat that I'm not accepting any criticism for anything I'm about to say, and I'm not saying that I'm not giving it a low score, but you did give my second favorite album of all time a 7.2. So I'm not accepting any critiques.
Yeah, but I'm a Madonna hater and you knew that. So like
Okay, Drew, I don't even think you could say presently you're a Madonna hater. You like too many songs now to be a Madonna
that's
hater.
true. But I was at the
I,
time. Would you rather me still be a Madonna hater or would you rather Ray of Light have a higher score?
I what?
Like would you rather me still hate Madonna? Like would you rather like not me like would you rather me
I
dismiss every Madonna convo or would you rather Ray of Light have a higher score?
both.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, I don't know. I'm just scared. I'm scared because I feel like if I don't give it a 10, I'm gonna get assassinated.
No, it's okay.
Um,
No, you won't.
Hey, I didn't.
yeah,
So
and the snipers are coming to you right now as we
No,
speak.
they're not. No, they're not.
are
It
you
just should have
sure?
been higher, but
I relate to what Maria's saying about it. I think that I maybe personally resonate with this album a bit more, and I think nostalgia is a big part of that. But like when Maria's like talking about like not listening it too casually, like I do listen to the singles casually. Um, as a record, it's not something that like I listen to in one piece. And for me, who's somebody who loves the art of an album, like I don't think the album quality of it and like the collection of songs and like the body of work is like the strongest element, but like the highs here I think are too like just impressive for me to deny. So I'm gonna give it an 8.9.
that's tea. I thought you would be lower. So I'm
Really?
slaying for that.
Why did you think I was gonna be lower?
Well, I don't know, because you were talking about how afraid you were to
Yes,
share your
because
score
I'm because you're
because
thinking
I'm
that.
crazy.
Yes, you're crazy.
Okay, what's the average score though?
I literally was like, if I don't give this a 10, he's gonna kill me. It's a 9.13.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Maria, you just letting you know you could go a little higher.
Well, I don't know about that. Are you in my brain poking around at my thoughts?
Trying. I'm
Trying,
trying.
trying. I mean, I don't know. That's just my tea.
I think I gave Chromatica higher than what you gave Teenage Dream. Like I'm not trying to barter, but
You
I'm trying to
actually,
barter.
you
Girl, this
actually,
isn't an economy.
Drew, you actually didn't. You gave Chromatic
Oh,
an 8.4.
okay. So I'm actually taking
So,
that back.
so think about it. I like Teenage Dream more than you like
Okay, yeah,
Chromatica.
so I appreciate you more. That's perfect.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Okay.
Well, we
Okay.
did it.
Well, we did it.
Well,
We have.
I got it.
Well, I
Well,
got
I
it.
got it.
Okay. Wait, who's wait? Oh, Levi.
Well, we have some fun things coming up. So before the end of the year, you will have a little bonus episode for from your favorite pop girlies, just kind of giving
The
you
only Pop Girlies. Thank
the
you.
only pop girlies. Giving you a end of year review. We're going to give you our favorite songs and albums of the year. So please look out for that. It's going to be posted in between this episode and then our next week's episode. But next week, we are kicking off 2025 with a big one with the elusive chanteuse of the moment, the singer that's been on everybody's lips, the breakout star of 2024. That is, of course, the Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess by Chappell Roan. Um, I think I really wanted to like make sure that we started off with a bang. I think this album is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. I think she's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And I also wanted to get it in before the Grammys because I have a feeling she'll be walking away with a couple. So, yeah. So, enjoy your teenage dream and then, take a flight from California, end up in Ohio in the Midwest, and log on next week.
Yep.
Period. Yay. Well, I'm
Cool.
so excited.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Pop Girlie.
Bye,
Bye.
Shanti.
You make me